right, now we're going live. Hello, welcome everyone to another video here on my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning into one of my videos, my name is Stef. I'm the Psychic Soul Alignment Coach, and today's video is going to be a little bit different from what I normally do. If you saw my last video, you will have seen that in my last video, I did a group table talk thing. I don't know what to call it. I'm calling it right now the Conscious Roundtable. That's what we're calling it at the moment. And basically in the last video, what we discussed was how business is shifting in the age of Aquarius, in this new age that we're stepping in this new earth that we're creating. So if you haven't yet seen that video, I will link it up here in the card section for you to go and check out afterwards. And today we're going to continue to have that conversation on how business is changing or different now that we're stepping into the new age, to hopefully help you with knowing what to be aware of as you do things in your business or you step into business if you still haven't created one yet. And we're just going to be sharing our experiences or asking questions and yeah, just seeing whatever else comes through in this conversation, because it's just going to flow and it's just going to be whatever comes up and whatever we speak to today. I'm just trusting that spirit will guide this conversation wherever it needs to go for your highest good, and that we don't repeat ourselves from the last conversation and we're going to see what happens. So before I get into that, I must say, I feel so much more comfortable doing this second video call thing now, because the first one I was nervous. Now I feel good. I feel like, oh, this is natural. All right, so we might have more of these. Let me know how you enjoy these videos so far, these conscious roundtable talks. Like maybe we will do this again if, you know, depending on the feedback and like what I feel called to do, okay? But let me know in the comments below. But anyway, before we get into that topic, first I want to introduce you to my guests here. So I'm going to let them take over and just kind of briefly give a quick introduction before we just see where we go with this conversation. So Connie, do you want to start?
Sure. Thank you, Steph, for having me. I'm super excited to be having this conversation. So I'm Conny Lee. My company is called the Visionary Virtual Agency. And so I myself am an online business manager / virtual assistant. And I don't really resonate with virtual assistant, but I use it because that's what everyone calls me. And so basically I have a team as well. And so we do like more creative admin stuff. So like helping with like content and scheduling and graphics. And I myself, like, even though I say like online business manager, it's more like, I like to say like aligned business manager, because I like to help people to like stay aligned with their business and with themselves while they're building their business.
I love that. And how long have you been in business?
I started in 2018 full time.
Okay, cool.
So,
awesome. Yeah. And what about you, Kat?
Hey, thank you so much for having me today. I'm super excited to be here. And it's nice to meet you, Connie, by the way.
You too.
My name is Catherine Dean, and I go by, I guess a lot of people now are calling me Aelin, which is kind of like a little monocle, I guess, or name that I have taken on my social media. But I am a podcaster, former life coach turned spiritual mentor, priestess path. And I've been podcasting for many years, and then I turned to life coaching. And then I realized that wasn't as fulfilling as I thought it would be. And I actually, at the end of last year, I completely started over from the ground up, created a new Instagram, and kind of just been revitalizing my business and more in alignment with who I'm moving in, who I'm growing into. So now I'm more in the spiritual community, I guess, so to speak, maybe. But it's definitely more soul work and soul coaching.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to be having these two amazing ladies here because I love them both. I've known Connie for a few years now through Facebook, and Kat, I met her through Instagram, I think last year, and we just like recognized each other, I think, on a soul level. So we love each other. And yeah. And so I guess with where I want to start taking this conversation is kind of having you speak a little bit more about your story, Kat, because I think what you did was really amazing. It's something that a lot of people are afraid to do, which basically Catherine, you know, had this podcast. And do you want me to call you Kat or Kate or Aelin? Like, what do you prefer, actually? I didn't ask you.
Go by Aelin. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if I'm gonna own it, right? Like,
yeah, it's gonna take me a minute, but I'm gonna try to, you know, respect you and your name.
You're
so
good.
So Aelin had it was actually Catherine. Catherine had podcasts and other podcasts, and it was all around helping people with anxiety and overcoming that and empowering themselves. And she had, a lot of people listening to her podcast, and she was impacting a lot of lives. But then at some point that just didn't feel in alignment anymore, didn't resonate. And she kind of went through the spiritual journey and started bringing her business more into alignment, and now goes by the name Aelin. And her content now is more geared towards spiritual empowerment and growth and awakening and all that kind of stuff. And basically in that whole process of shifting from one business to the next or one niche to the next, I'm not sure if you completely did away with your podcast, but you got rid of your Instagram handle, which had a few thousand followers, and you just started over from zero to go in this new direction. And I think that's so powerful, because a lot of people are afraid to do that kind of thing. A lot of people let their minds, their egos kind of be like, oh, but I have all these people, and I've built all this momentum behind it, and they're afraid of letting that go and starting over anew. So I think that speaks a lot to you and your integrity with yourself and your path and what you really feel your soul is calling you to do. And I would like for you to kind of maybe share about why you really decided to do that from your perspective, or what led you to that exactly, to make such a big jump. Why did you feel like that was necessary, and what what helped you to kind of overcome a lot of those egoic, fear-based thoughts that kept telling you maybe oh no, you shouldn't do that, look at all your hard work, you're throwing it into the trash, that kind of thing, to help some people.
Yeah. Thank you so much for speaking on this. This is a huge part of my story, because everybody always knew me as Hype Girl Cat. And I had this kind of persona for many, many years. And I think part of it was I loved podcasting, and I still do, but then I kind of got into that coaching realm, and I started to coach people. And one of the key points that I noticed was it was like pulling teeth. And it was like this uphill battle. At first it's exciting. You know what I mean? We're super excited. We were like, oh, this coaching program is going to be great. And then it was like pulling teeth to create content. It was like pulling teeth to show up, but I was showing up every single day. And I was just like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. And I think that started 4 months or so after I started coaching. And I was just like, something's off here. And I started to ask myself the really hard questions. I was like, okay, Catherine, if you were making X amount a month, then you were this and you were that and you were this, and it was this business, would you still feel like something's missing? Would you still feel fulfilled? And it was so hard to sit there and journal and be like, no, I would still feel like there's something's not right. Something's not resonating. And I soon realized that while anxiety relief, mindset empowerment, all that is part of my story, it's not necessarily the business I wanted to have. I'm like, there's something missing. There's a piece that's missing. And I started to really think about just starting new. And that ego was like, oh my gosh, you have a few thousand followers. These are people that have been following you forever. And what about the podcast? And I know a lot of us have been through the dark night of the soul, the awakenings, the realizations, right? And then just coming to a place of self-actualization. That's the best way. And I'm like, okay. And it wasn't fun. It was really hard, because then I had to come on and explain to people that then you're telling people that didn't resonate. And then it's I felt bad, because I had all these prior clients that were just wait a minute, is this how you were feeling when you were showing up for me? And it's it never took away from the impact, or how excited I was to see my clients, or excited to see their shifts. I just knew on a soul level, integrity wise, if I keep going, it's just not going to be good for me, for my clients, and it's not fair to everybody. So I was like, maybe I could just start over. And actually one of my friends, she was like, girl, I've started over on Instagram so many times. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. And then I started to look at it as more, I think this idea is happening and it's coming to me over and over again to start new, because for a reason, right? We wouldn't have this push to start new if it wasn't, So I was like, these are nudges, these are breadcrumbs, this is literally my higher self being like, look, we're trying to give you all these signs. And I just pulled the plug, and I said, you know what? It's towards the end of the year. Let's do it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. And there are a lot of people that were just like, what? And the thing is when I did that, was like taking a huge load right off my shoulders, and I felt liberated. I felt free. I felt like, wow, okay, now I can start creating the business and really following these breadcrumbs and creating something that's more in alignment and more resonant. But I think that I had to go through that. I had to take that path to understand what it felt like to really be so out of alignment with what we're really wanting to do. And I think all my guides and everything were like, okay, we're going to throw this on you. We're going to throw that, and you're going to have a dark night of the soul. And then you're going to understand. I think I will never forget that feeling. I'll never forget the feeling of last year, trudging through content, doing things for the sake of doing them and showing up. I'll never forget that feeling ever. And now it's different. And I did actually recently explain to a lot of people on my new social media page that I'll be putting the Hype Girl podcast on a hiatus. I think that was the old energy that I've been carrying with me because I've been with that podcast for so long. And I've been holding on to that. And I've noticed that like I'm kind of meeting some kind of resistance, and I'm like, it's just not resonating right now, And I made the decision the other day that I'm going to go on a hiatus and I'm going to start a new podcast, but it's going to be an extension, and it's going to be something for fun, and it's going to be more in alignment.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I think the reason I wanted to start there first is because, like I said, so many people resist taking such a big leap of faith or making such a drastic change. There's a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs, for example, but then, they're forcing themselves to stay with that job that they have. And there's nothing wrong with the job, but, the job isn't fulfilling them. And they're forcing themselves to stay in an environment that doesn't fulfill them. Why? Because their ego, their minds are literally telling them, like, this is how you pay the bills. This is how you, get this done, or whatever it is.
Right.
And so they're compromising their alignment with who they truly are, with their soul, their integrity with themselves over money. They're basically, and that's unconsciously in a way, kind of like putting money above a lot of other things, right? And so it's interesting because not just that, like even in the entrepreneurial field, a lot of people are afraid of making such a big change like you, or letting go of everything. Like even you shared how it's been a process to let go of that, and you let it go by, dropping the Instagram account that you had associated with your first podcast. But now you're really kind of like leaving the podcast temporarily, at least, because you were still holding onto it on another level, but now you're letting it go. And sometimes it comes in these waves and these layers, because there's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the journey, it's part of the process. But I think just like the tremendous jump that you made is really admirable, because I've been in this business for a while, and I've seen people go through different stages of business. And I know for a lot of people, because they encounter resistance, it takes them a long time sometimes to like make those big shifts. And you just kind of did it like, okay, December, we're done with the Instagram, and now it's April, and you're like, okay, I'm leaving the podcast for, who knows how long. And it only took you a few months, which sometimes it takes people years. But the reason that I'm speaking to this is to kind of really want to emphasize the fact that as we step into, the age of Aquarius, we keep moving forward on this timeline, and we create this new earth. Something that I spoke to in the last conversation was like, energy is everything. Energy is new currency, because, in the past, we used to give a lot of value, a lot of priority to material things, because, we were very much still in that kind of consciousness where like material things, money, houses, properties, that kind of stuff weighed so much. We were kind of driven to look after our survival instincts were really kicking in, and we had to like really make sure that we were going to survive. We were provided for, we were taken care of. But as the consciousness on the planet has elevated, and we're connecting more deeply to the spiritual side of ourselves, that material stuff isn't as important as it used to be. And that's not to say it still isn't important. It's not to say that we're still not meant to, move our way towards gathering or receiving more money or material wealth or those kinds of things. No, but at the end of the day, that's not what's going to really help us to feel aligned with who we truly are and be very fulfilling to our souls. And so that's the thing, is that a lot of us are going to start really feeling very strongly the disconnect that we have inside of ourselves when we're doing things in our businesses, or we're in careers that really aren't fulfilling. Like we're going to feel that massive disconnect, and it's going to really just be very heavy on us. And that's what a lot of people are really feeling at this time. And they're being encouraged to recognize that disconnect, and recognize that the universe is literally causing this disconnect, or this dis-ease that you feel with whatever you're doing and where you're at, because it's trying to move you in the right direction. It's the direction that's going to bring you the greatest level of success, fulfillment, alignment, joy, all that kind of stuff. But it's a process, and you have to be willing to listen to that. And sometimes it'll just get you to this point of like this breaking point where, like you said, the universe is throwing you all these things to help you see just how far out of alignment you are, until you kind of, in a way, the way I see it is like you crack under pressure and you surrender, and you're like, fine, like, just gonna give this up. I'm just gonna move in this direction because this is not working. And you move yourself in that direction because that's what's truly for your highest good. So that's something that I wanted to speak to. I think Connie lost either connection, or I don't know what's happened. Hopefully she comes back. But for now,
I'm pretty sure she's gonna come back, because she didn't look like she like just left.
yeah. And so that's the thing, is like, do you have any more to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's important right now to really listen and be still long enough to listen. And even if that means taking some time away and really discerning like the truth and what's going on, we're in such an age where things are shifting. And I'm not the only person that made big leaps last year. I'm not the only person that's making big leaps this year. I think it's a collective shift. And I've seen and even just witnessed, especially people that I have had on the podcast in the past like 6 months or so, like it's a lot of people are realizing that disconnect, and they're realizing like this energetically just doesn't really feel good. And we stick with things because that's what we know. It's like our identity. And my identity was hype girl Cat for so long. And it felt like I was not just betraying myself in a way, my ego, but like betraying the people. But I'm like, I have to honor this because it was such a big nudge. And I think when we have something that's repeating over and over again and popping up for us and we're seeing the signs, it's like, what's the worst that could happen if you started a new Instagram? I mean, keep your old one, right? Like what's the worst that could happen? Like you start a new Instagram account or you start a new podcast, and it's just honoring that. And it's honoring that, especially when your integrity and the integrity of clients or your business starts coming into play. That's really huge, because I've interviewed people on the podcast before that were like, I was miserable what I was doing for like a year, and it's like I knew something was wrong, and I'm like, that's a long time, so I'm thankful that I got out of it, and had that awakening as quick as I did. But at the same time, everybody has their own journey, everybody has like their own path and the way that they have to learn it. So, we have to honor that too.
Yeah, I think that's definitely important. It's like, if it is taking you a little bit longer to let go of things you need to let go of or whatever, like I even did a video recently, if I can find the name of it. It's like, I did a whole video because I was inspired on it, because I've struggled a lot with surrendering. And I think a lot of people do, especially depending on how you were raised and the things you went through. So I will link it up here in the cards for you to check out. But it's like something on, if you struggle with surrendering and trusting them, watch this or something. And, something that I want to reiterate here is like, even if you're struggling to let things go, like you said, for a whole year as you were doing your podcast, you still felt out of alignment, but you were still doing it because you weren't aware at the time that, it was out of alignment. You just knew you felt off or whatever, but you didn't really know what it was. So you're just like, okay, but I have this business I want to create. I want to make this impact. So I'm still going to do the things, I'm going to keep showing up. And that was a bit of a process for you. That was a year. And then even when you were creating your Instagram account, I remember like when you created a new account and I was like, Kat, is this you? Like, who is this? Because you get so many people like faking accounts and you're like, oh yeah, I just created a new one because this and that, but you still had the old one. So it took a bit of a process for you to also, drop the main account and just go head on with the new one. And then even with letting go of this, podcast and putting that on the, back burner for a little bit, that's also taken a bit of a process. It's taken a few months, as like I walk through your timeline. So I'm so glad I'm talking to you, because like it's a perfect example of how these things don't happen overnight for some people. No. It does take a journey. Yeah. And you're going to get to where you're supposed to get to, like when it's your time, and so long as you're moving forward, dang it. Oh, sorry. Connie just messaged me out. So long as you're trying your best to move forward, like you'll get there when you're meant to. Yeah. And so it's a journey. Be gentle with yourself. Don't judge yourself. Just because like maybe some people make these massive changes more quickly than other people. We're all going to get there in our own time, so long as you're willing to, show up and do the work and that kind of stuff. Also, I want to share with everyone that like Connie just messaged us and let us know that there's like a big windstorm over where she's at. So the power went out or something. And I don't know if she can join. I can't message her right now. But
well, I was kind of worried today as well, but I mean, everything works out the way it's supposed to, but we had really bad storms this morning and my forecast was like, oh, they're going to be all day. And then like maybe an hour or two before this, like they really stopped and everything kind of slowed down. I was like, man, it's kind of sketchy over here. Sometimes we can have really bad storms and we don't lose power. And sometimes it's just wind and we lose power. So I never knew. So I was like, okay, we're good.
Yeah, I just trust like whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen.
Yes.
And maybe all that Connie needed to contribute today was like share that she's an amazing business manager, virtual assistant person. And she's really good with helping you with these things. So I will drop everyone's info in the comments below for you to go check them out. And
there's going to be more of these too. So I'm sure she's going to have more opportunities to join.
Well, I know me and Connie, we have a lot of things to say around like racism and speaking up on that as a spiritual person. So maybe we'll invite her back for like a conversation there. Also, if you're new to this channel and you haven't seen my playlist on spiritual activism and spiritual bypassing, like go check that out in the cards. But going back to what you said, it's a journey that unfolds for everyone differently. And we got to just trust in that process and do our best with that. Also, what I wanted to say and what I spoke to a little bit in the last video was like energy, how energy is a new currency. And people think a lot of times that, for example, like it's a big thing in the marketing world for people to share, how much money they're making or how much money their clients are making. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I'm not bashing that in any kind of way, but it's like the person could be very successful or look really nice and everything on the outside, but if their energy's off for some reason, you're going to feel that a lot more. And the reason I say this is because like in my last video, I said energy is now more palpable. Like people, whether they're intuitive or not, psychic or not, they feel energy a lot more than before. And so people are going to feel your energy first before they like look at the graphics and the money that you say you have or whatever's going on with all of that stuff.
Ooh,
like
yes.
It's not so much the material world anymore. We're shifting into more of like an energetic world where we're learning how to read energy, all of us on some level, and we're allowing this ability to read energy to guide us in our interactions with one another and whether we choose to invest to work with a mentor or not. And this is especially important in business because I think it seems like to me, sometimes I've observed a certain superficiality in the marketing world or online coaching world that I just never fully resonated with because I'm very laid back and down to earth. Like, I'm not saying I will never have like those beautiful posed, kind of pictures or, graphics kind of things on my stuff. Like, I'm not saying I'll never have them. It's just that like, that's not my style at this time. And sometimes I think there are people that try to just put up that front just to look good, to attract people, just to give us off a certain image, to look the part and then attract people. But if the energy that person is emitting is off, then that's what a lot of times a lot of people are going to feel first and foremost, because we're becoming more sensory. And that's really important to have into consideration as you move forward with your business, is like people are going to pick up on your energy. So do your best to be of integrity, because if you're not in integrity, then people are going to notice that whether you're saying it outwardly or not. They're going to feel something's off about you, or maybe you're not the right person for them. And maybe it's not something conscious sometimes, like I know me and my own challenges that I've had, like for spiritual entrepreneurs, I've seen like what a big struggle that we have is like, we do have the best of intentions of helping people, but then our ego mind and our own traumas and things lets us be led by our own like need for validation or need to pay the bills or whatever it is. And that is what takes us out of integrity. That is what mucks up the energy. And that is what essentially unconsciously repels people and keeps us from really being able to attract the people that we're meant to support and help, and to make the impact that we're here to make. So what do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you mentioned that, because my old Instagram account, I was doing things that I felt like I had to do.
Mhm.
versus the things that I wanted to do. And my new Instagram account is like completely different. It might seem a little bit more quote unquote like aesthetic or whatever, but the old account was more, I felt I had to do these things because this is what was marketing. This is what was popular. This is what everybody said was, pleasing the algorithm. And as I shifted in this new account, I was just like, I'm going to just start doing things that I really like, and be of integrity too, because like you said, people can feel that. And I think that has a lot to do with like this shift that we're going through of, you know, content and what it's supposed to look like and like putting it in a box, because I have noticed that a lot more people are blazing their own trail. Like not everything is perfect anymore. It's just throwing up a quote, or it's throwing up, a IGTV that's not like perfect and edited. It's like, I'm just here and I'm showing up. And that's what I love doing, is like just showing up, especially on my stories. But people are shifting out of that. Like we went from being put in a box and this curated content that's supposed to look a certain way. And it, for me, last year with that account, it made me feel so limited and it made me feel trapped, where it's like, I've got to be creating these like crazy graphics and graphs and things in Canva. And I didn't like that. I love the Twitter post. I love my pictures that my photographer takes, because I'm been doing that for many years before I ever started coaching. I was just always like, I want to go do a photo shoot. Like I love that. That's like part of who I am. But I like that. I don't like the graphs and the charts and the things that, it's got to make sure it's super shareable. And it felt so limiting. And then it puts you in this box where, okay, well, I only can do this much. And we are seeing such a shift in content, the way people are posting, the way people are showing up. And I think that is like the collective, like Age of Aquarius, where we're really shifting the way we utilize technology. We're shifting the way that we show up, and it's more about energy. And it really is more about integrity and authenticity. And if it feels good. And there were some things when I transitioned to the new account, I noticed that energy was kind of carried over, where I'm like, well, maybe I could do this, or maybe I could post this picture and add this little, you know what I mean? I noticed that, but it started to fall off. Like I was releasing that in my own time, but now it's just like, look, I have the things that I like to post, the way I post and how I get that across. And if someone doesn't like that, I'm at this point, like, it's okay. I'm not supposed to be liked like by everybody, you know, you know what I mean? So I think it's just realizing what works for us too, and what we like to do. And that comparison comes into that comparison trap is something I found that a lot of us were caught in. I feel like I keep saying like the old days, because last year just feels like such a shift from like this year. It just, the energy feels different, but there's a lot of comparison. And and that's what I think gets a lot of us in trouble, because then we're like, we're doing things that other people are doing because we see their success with it. But here's the thing, their energy behind that, maybe why they're doing that, is because they're of integrity. They love creating, they love doing this, or they love doing that. But then when you try to do it and replicate it, it's from an energy of like FOMO or lack or fear, or like, all of that. So it's definitely it's a growth. I feel like it's a growth. It's all part of the process. Oh no, you're good.
We have the gentleman that was supposed to join us originally from the very beginning. I think he might be joining us now.
Oh, awesome.
So like we lost one, but we're gaining one, I hope. I don't know. We'll see how this conversation flows.
No, you're good.
So hopefully he gets the link, because I don't have the link to send it to him. But going with what you said a lot of things. So first of all, yes,
I'm sorry, I went everywhere.
Yeah, it's okay. We're gonna circle back around the way we need to, and we'll talk about whatever needs to get talked about. So going back real quick to what you said about the Age of Aquarius, like I'm an Aquarian, so like this is my time, and like who better than to know about these things? Yeah, it's my time. But like I don't even know a whole lot about astrology and stuff. Like I've been learning about it the last year or so, but knowing myself and what I value as an Aquarian, like one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is like individuality, because Aquarians are like known as being the quirky ones, the weird ones, we're like the ETs or whatever, and that's how we are, and we're eccentric to a certain extent. And so I'm very passionate about people's individuality and figuring out like what works uniquely for them, and helping them step into that instead of teaching them how to do things my way or whatever it is. And so you said like people are really no longer continuing to follow like, you know, that follow the leader type of mentality, like, oh, my leader, you know, my mentor, my guru, whatever, my coach, you know, does this strategy and I'm going to implement that too, whatever. Like people are literally becoming more soul aligned, and they're really being able to start expressing like what works uniquely for them, how they uniquely want to be heard, how they uniquely want to do things. Like that's so important. And so to anyone listening, you know, Kat was saying how, or Aelin was saying how, like back in the day, you know, with the old way of doing things, you know, she wanted to make these graphics that were shareable and, you know, to look a certain way and have a certain aesthetic and stuff, because, you know, she had learned that along the way. Oh, yay, we have Connie joining us back. Yay. And so hold on a second, let me change my screen. Hey Connie, thanks for joining us. Yay, we're so glad you can make it back. I couldn't really reply to you because I was, you know, here, and I was like it was a little too much, but hopefully you can like, I'm gonna finish my train of thought and then you just like maybe come and add there like whatever you feel called to add. So what I was saying is that, yeah, people are feeling called to express their individuality. And you know, back when Aelin was Kat and she was making the perfect graphics, trying to look a certain way and, you know, do these things to get these certain results. Like that's what we have learned in being in this online space and learning about business. That works, but that doesn't work for everyone, you know. And there's nothing wrong if you're watching this and you feel like creating those beautiful, shareable, pretty graphics is right for you. Like if it's right for you, like do it. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it doesn't feel good to you, if it doesn't feel in alignment, then don't force yourself to do it. Like I'm one of those people where I'm like, I'm not gonna spend 3 hours on Canva trying to figure out how to make this crap. Like no, H to the no. Like I'm not doing that. It's too much work. I'm not an artistic visual person. Like this, it does not bring me joy to sit here and try to make it beautiful and whatever it needs to be shareable. Like it will actually stress me out. I will get mad and I'll just be like, I can't believe I wasted 3 hours of my life trying to do this just to get likes, just to get follows, just to whatever, get shares. Like I'm not gonna do this anymore. And I just do whatever I want. And you know, even like I think it was last night or the night before, I wanted to do an Instagram post for like a previous video on unconditional love. I'll link it up here. And I knew I wanted to do a post, but I got around to doing that post like 2-3 days later. And then I was like, should I take a picture for this, like a selfie, and then like write my caption? And then I was like, no, I want to write a quote. I feel like, and I kept trying, like I didn't know how to write the quote originally, and I kept messing up. But then I was like, man, I should just take a picture. Like, screw it. Just take a picture. I already got the caption. I'm just going to post it. But then part of me was like, no, write the quote. So I was like, fine, I'll write the quote. And somehow the words finally flowed. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because that's what I actually really wanted to do. And I don't normally do these like quotes things, because that's another strategy too that people can use is, you know, have all of these like, you know, and especially in the spiritual community, like we see all these like beautiful spiritual quotes that we like share on our stories from other people. And we love that, right? But, you know, I don't want to try to follow that strategy for me just because like it's gotten people like all these thousands of followers, whatever. Like, I'm just like, I'm going to write the quotes when I feel like it. There's no particular strategy. It's just like that day, if I feel inspired to write this quote for people to read, then that's when it's going to get done. And that's how I flow. So anything you want to share with that, Connie? And before we get into that, hey, Elcon, thank you for joining us. So happy to have you here. So maybe you'll be able to stay a bit longer. Miss Aelin has to leave in about 20 minutes. I don't know, Connie. We're all over the place with this call, but hopefully everyone watching enjoys it, the craziness. So very quickly, Elcon, can you introduce yourself for us, for the people watching, and tell them a little bit about you, your work, and how long you've been in business for? And then we'll shift to Connie and have her share her thoughts with what we just said.
All right. So can you all hear me fine?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, all right. So I'm Elcon Fleur, and I'm from the Netherlands, and I now live in Suriname, South America. Very hot, rainy as well. So yeah, what was I going to say again? What I do? Or
yeah, what you do and how long you've been in business for.
All right. Well, I started on online with hypnotherapy online
Yeah.
hypnotherapy in 2018. 2018, I started, and but I recently quit doing that. Even though I got better results with the clients, I can say. Um, it was an interesting journey. So I can't say right now I'm in between business change, but it so yeah, I could say since 2018 that I've been working for myself and been on social media and exploring the opportunities and connecting with people to help them create better lives and work on themselves as I work on me. Self-optimization is what I like to call it. And throughout that journey, that's how I met Stef as well. So she has been very helpful and kind and sweet to me, and I believe many others that she has been able to reach throughout this platform of Facebook, which is the one where I met her. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Elcon, for sharing a little bit about you. Yes, he's from the Netherlands. Miss Connie is based in Canada, and Miss Aelin is in the US. So we have people from all over the world here. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
we will get back to you, Elcon, because you
Sure.
just joined, so you're kind of like a little bit out of the loop. So we're
Right.
gonna switch to Miss Connie to have her share her thoughts on what we just shared on, sharing our truth authentically, following strategies that are aligned, especially from her background as a business manager, virtual assistant, that kind of really has a lot to do with that, for her clients. I'm sure she has a unique perspective to share on what she's observed. And then maybe you can chime in afterwards, once you feel caught up with the conversation. Okay, Elcon?
Yeah. All right.
All right, Connie, take it away.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, it's really interesting because, well, my power went out, so I missed like half the conversation. But there was like so much I wanted to say, because when Aelin was sharing her story about like her giving up, like letting go of the like first business, and just this like idea of how we like really hold on. And because I started as a resume writer and career coach, and I did not want to let those go. I was making like absolutely like no money doing any of it, because I was doing like contract work. And so somebody said, like, when you're holding on so tightly, like there's no room for anything else to land. And so I was like, so I finally like started to let go. But Steph, what you were saying earlier about like strategies, that's like one of the things I see happening a lot is that there are so many blueprints, so many different programs, and unless your energy is behind it,
Yeah,
you can have like all the strategies, like access to all the strategies in the world, and unless you like truly believe in it and are aligned and your energy is behind it, then they won't work. Like I've supported clients with like huge funnels, right? We go through like the whole process of building these like massive funnels. Everybody's frustrated, like nobody's enjoying themselves, right? And then we get to the end and it was like, was that really what felt good to you? Like, did any of that feel good? Or like, I've supported people that are doing things like the way that they should be doing, the way that they think they need to be doing things. And so they're trying to like drag their like community along to like join in on whatever it is. And until they like look at themselves and realize where they're out of alignment and then like realign, and then all of a sudden like magic kind of happens. So I'm really like a lot about being in alignment. And I'm studying human design, which I think we like talked about briefly before, which has really helped me to understand alignment and being in it.
Yeah, I spoke to human design a bit in my last call too, because it's the bits that I've learned about it have definitely helped me in terms of like my own journey and accepting my process and the way it's unfolded, because everyone's journey, unique path, like we all come here with like unique karma, unique soul lessons, unique things that we're meant to experience to fulfill our missions here or our purposes. So it's going to look different for everyone. And like me personally, I know for me, can't speak for anyone else, but like I have so much karma, so much crap I needed to overcome, so many hard lessons, but it's also, I needed to go through that in order to teach people from my mistakes, teach people how to get to alignment much more quickly, to understand like soul versus ego and all that stuff. And so learning the bits and pieces about human design has definitely helped me to like be accepting of how crazy chaotic my journey has been and how certain things have unfolded the way that they have. Because I'm like, okay, I'm not stupid, I'm not dumb, I'm not this, like it's just the way it's supposed to be. And I'm doing my best. So it can be a very helpful tool for sure. But I want to ask you real quick, Connie, about like, since you help people with like greater alignment, what does that kind of look like in terms of social media, like sharing, and like how do you help people to create content in a way that maybe really feels right in line with them, but like without necessarily following like a certain strategy or structure, if that makes sense? Like, I don't even know if I'm wording this right. Hopefully you understand me.
Yeah. And I think it goes back a lot to energy again, right? Like you can show up consistently and put a post out there every single day. But if your like energy is like from this place of like, I desperately need to sell this thing, then people feel it right away, right? Like even when somebody like slides into my DMs and they're just like, hey, do you want to get on a call? I'm like, no. It just feels gross. So no, like, right. And it's a different energy when somebody is coming from this place of like really wanting to help you. And so for me, like I don't have any interest in building like a huge platform, and I'm not about like how many followers I have. I really like, I have this thing against like this 5,000 email list because there's so many things with it, right? Like it's, you can buy a list, you can get like emails like not even legally, right? Depending on how, right? So like there are these ways that people can build these lists, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that list is engaged. And then it excludes these people that have a really good message because they don't have 5,000 people on their list, right? And so I get it from this perspective of like needing these metrics in order for you as like say the summit host to need 100,000 in your audience. But if you don't truly have 100,000, you're not actually, right? So like there's all these things. So when I'm working with people, I usually try to find out their human design, but I also ask them like, what feels good to you? And how is showing up going to feel good enough for you? Is it through stories or reels or like posting like once every week? And it goes against such like traditional advice of like, you have to show up every single day, multiple times a day and whatever. But if it's just going to come from this place of like ickiness of like Aelin was saying at the beginning, like just kind of like trudging through it and like just doing it for doing it, then people are going to like smell that anyway. So like your engagement's probably not going to be that great. I only have like 484 followers on Instagram, but I still have a thriving business. So it's
Yeah.
like, I
Numbers
don't,
don't mean anything.
yeah. So that's how I see like with social media, it's like, and then also too, like tapping into, for me, like being a manifesting generator, it means that like I have multi-passion, I'm multi-passionate, right? And so like any given day I can have a new topic to talk on. And it's all like about just the things that I'm aligned with, right? And so that's kind of how I pursue like, or encourage people to like pursue their social media, is that just coming from this like true place of like service or whatever they value and showing up that way.
Yeah, what I really want people to take away from this is like numbers don't matter, strategies don't matter, like number of times you post in the places don't matter. It's all about like you really being in integrity and really standing strong behind whatever it is that you're doing, really believing in it, believing in yourself, trying your best to truly come from a place of being of service, and just allowing the universe to work magic for you. Because like me and Aelin were discussing earlier when you were not online, Connie, like people are sensing energy so much more quickly than before. It's very sensory. And so people can feel when you're coming to them and pitching your offers, your things, and it's just truly just to get money out of them. It's truly just to fill another spot. And it's interesting because one of the funny things that I really loved about human design that I learned for myself recently is like there are people that show up in my inbox on Instagram, especially to message me, to try to get to know me better. And even though the message, like there's some people that it's like so like right away from the first message, you can tell like they just want to sign me on to something, you know? And those are the people that automatically were just like, no, goodbye. You know, I'm not even going to waste my time talking to you. But then there are people who show up in my messenger thingy, and like the message has been written in such a way where it seems nice and genuine, but I can tell that it's not truly genuine. I know it. And through learning through human design, like my thing is like, I know people's intentions or things like before they know it, like, or before like I'm supposed to know, something like that. And I'm like, this is why I know what they really want, they really mean or intend behind whatever they're doing. Even if they're not saying it out, you know, spelling it out for me or whatever, but like, I'm like, you're not messaging me really to get to know me. Like with Miss Aelin, like that's how it generally was. Like we connected, like truly, like the energy was aligned. We became really good friends. But with a lot of people, they come to me and it seems nice, it seems friendly, it seems genuine, but it doesn't feel that way. And I'm like, I'm not even gonna waste my time talking to you because I can smell the fakeness from a mile away. So not even gonna go there. And so this is what I want people to really be mindful of, is like energy is everything. So if your energy is off and you're not coming from a place of really good intentions and being of service, like people are going to notice that more, especially those of us who have been working on ourselves, those of us who have been in this journey a while, like, or we're just really in tune with our intuition, like we'll sense that something's off. And this is going to cost you in the long run, because I think there's a lot of good, like well-intentioned people out there, especially like spiritual entrepreneurs. Like we're here to try to make the world better, but we unconsciously, like our own traumas and our own scarcity and our own egoic things kind of mess up the energy in a way where like that's really the subconscious, like sneaky energy there behind what's going on. And so we have to really, this leads me to the next thing, which is like we have to really start recognizing that inner work is the key to working through all of that. Like inner work is the key to figuring out like what your strategy is for you, how you want to show up, what your unique voice and truth looks like online, you know, so that you're not trying to follow someone's cookie cutter type of strategy. But then inner work is also the key to like getting your energy in alignment so that the scarcity, the fear, the insecurities, the lack of self-worth or whatever isn't subconsciously like messing things up as you interact with people, because people are going to feel that. So Elcon, since you joined us, do you want to add something to that? And then we'll go to the ladies.
Well, I don't think I have anything to add to it. Although I made some notes because there are great comments, you know, that you made, and I heard Connie speak that Connie made, and I think that's what I happen to have learned for myself. So it's rather what I have to say now is not something to add as with regards to what has already been said, but what I could add is that I can, I understand and I have experienced it, and I agree with the aspect of letting go and the energy behind it, authenticity, the integrity of who you are. But you know, then perhaps what I could add is a lot of us are still looking for that identity of who we are. And as we are talking about people who are being inauthentic on social media, trying to just get in the next client or next gig, it's you know, we got to give these people some time, because I was there in their shoes once. They have to learn how it affects them, you know, as a reflector, and then they can open up to understand that they were indeed inauthentic. So not, of course, not to say that that's not what you mean, Stef or Connie, but I guess that's what I could add now, is the inauthenticity comes from a lack of awareness, of self-awareness, and which can be, you know, created, developed. It's you know, we're all here, I believe, to do the best we can in life for ourselves and for others. And for me, it may not have been hypnotherapy, and it may well be. Maybe I'm just still learning to understand that that is what I have to do, and maybe it's something else. So for those, I haven't said this yet, I'm also an actor now. Again, I've been acting most of my life, And it's something that I do feel. I do feel that I'm putting the energy behind it. I do feel that as far as letting go, I'm letting go of that being in me to express itself through acting. I'm learning more to show up as that part of me that wants to act and wants to perform. I'm talking about experiences that I've had with people who were giving me feedback on my performances and how it has affected them in their lives. And that's when I learned that acting is not just something that is merely for self gratification for me, but that it is also there to help others um, lift up their own self awareness or their own consciousness, their own being of whatever they need to experience in their life. It's not just for me. It also helps other people, and maybe that's the journey. Well, in fact, that is the journey that I'm on right now, and is what I need to experience and what others need to experience from me. So we're all here to learn more, and that's why we're having this conversation, right? Not because we're perfect, but because we recognize being imperfect, I suppose, or recognize that we are growing. At least that's for me. I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth, but for me, it is about showing up every day, seeing if I can be more in tune, more in have that integrity of who I really am, because I don't really know. I'm making a decision every day to do something in my life, but I don't really know who I am. You know, what would life be for if I knew all the answers? If I knew exactly who I am and what I need to do? That's why I get up, so I can learn, so I can experience, so I can have the enjoyment of being wrong as well as being right. So being in alignment, yeah, is definitely key here. So I don't know if anything that I said was in addition to what has already been said, but I really felt like that is what I want to express right now as far as this has been going on and what I've been able to follow. Um, that it's just a journey, and that we have to be patient with others and as well as with ourselves when we are being approached in a way that we just don't like, and or have resistance towards, because the resistance of course says also something about us you know um so yeah, I guess
I
that's
love
it.
how I love how the women on the car were just all like, yes, yes,
Oh, there.
like a lot of his points. Okay, Miss Aelin, do you want to say anything to that? I know you have to hop off soon, so.
Yeah, I probably got like 5 or 10 minutes, but that
You don't want to go?
I got a little bit, right? I'm all right. But I think it was a perfect segue, Elcon, like from what
Mhm,
she talked about inner growth. I mean,
mhm,
you put inner growth so perfectly. Like it's waking up and like being okay with like being wrong and being okay with, taking
sure.
a detour, it's okay. And I think really and truly, we gotta take a grain of salt sometimes on what we see on social media and understand that like everybody's just remembering and figuring out like who they are in that moment. Because one thing I tell people, I'm not the same person as I was this morning. Okay,
Right.
I'm not the same person I was this morning, right? Like I'm different right now, and I think that's part of the journey is evolving and not really putting specific labels and like taking those labels and holding on to them, because it's like we change, we evolve, we grow. And the most beautiful part of the journey is going deep and going inward. And I think that if we
Mhm,
take that time and patience to do that, it's going to be so much more beautiful when we do show up and we do show up for clients in our business or on social media, whatever it is. Because it's like I think there's this rat race sometimes to heal. There's this rat race to like, I need to hurry up and heal this so I can show up in this way, or when I heal this I can start this business, or when I heal this I can start coaching. And it's like, take the time. I had even told myself at the beginning of the year, man, even if it takes me like all year to figure it out and really put something out there like soul aligned and birth something like really beautiful that I am deeply in love with, that's okay. Like we got to be okay. And I love that you said we got to be patient with ourselves and other people as well. I think we kind of get caught up in that just momentum moving forward. And sometimes all the answers come in stillness, and they come in us slowing down and actually just kind of pumping the brakes and going inward.
Mhm.
Miss Connie, you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you, Elcon, for the reminder. Because when I first started in this whole thing and I hired a couple of business coaches, they would like ask me to do these things that felt totally like gross to me, and I did them anyway. And so it probably came across as like super icky to people, right? Like, right. So I've been in that position of also doing that. So thank you for that reminder that yes, like we're all just like on this journey and we're all just kind of learning. And so sometimes we do things even if they doesn't feel aligned. But I think my point too is like feel into how things feel for you, because it got to this point where with some of my coaches, I'd be like, no, I'm just not doing that because it doesn't feel good. And they're like, but this is how it works. Like, this is what you have to do in order to get to the next step. And I'm like, well, then we'll have to figure out a different way because it doesn't work for me. Right. And so that's been one of my big learnings as well. But I sometimes forget that and then become a bit judgmental about how other people are doing it.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like, that's something that I've been trying to bring forward a lot in my own messages with, oh yeah, there was this like incident with this personal development person that's well known in the personal development community. And a lot of people were just like coming at this person for how they express themselves in this video that they did, and just like how they poorly express themselves and all this other stuff. And they're just all of a sudden, like, all these people just came after this person to try to set them straight. And it's like, I did my best to bring forward a message around the fact that it's like, we're all human, we're all flawed, we're all figuring it out. And like, if we're going to correct each other, to try to do that with loving kindness, because we all at some point don't know better about something. And we're, even if we're at the top of our game or we're seen as someone's mentor or idol, whatever, like, it doesn't mean we're not going to mess up from time to time, you know? And I always try to share, I guess, like my own personal stories and remind people as well to not put me on any kind of pedestal and to be mindful of their own spiritual ego, because we do sometimes fall into that tendency where it's like, when we get people messaging us with these icky like messages that are clear, like of what their intention is about, or even if it's not like straightforward what their intention is about, what we can feel the misalignment in their energy. Like, sometimes we can fall into that trap of spiritual ego where we're like, oh, this person, why do people do this way? And it's so easy to judge them and to make them be bad or villains or whatever. But it's like, that's just where they're at in their journey. That is maybe they don't know any better. Maybe they're truly doing this, but it's not coming from a bad place. Or maybe that's just part of their learning, growth, and experience. Like, they have to just go through this to figure out like what works, what doesn't work for them, what's in alignment, what isn't. And we just have to do our best to extend compassion to those people. Because, you know, chances are, like, at one point in our own journeys, like, we've done something like that on some level, whether it's with business or something else, right? And so extend people the same compassion, love, understanding, courtesy that you would like to have extended to you. That's something that I've had to learn a lot in my own journey.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah. So, Miss Aelin, do you have to go? I don't want to keep you on. So
Yeah, I might as well, if we're at a good like point for me to hop out. That way y'all can continue this. But it's been amazing and awesome. This was probably the best way to spend like this hour of my day. I really enjoyed meeting y'all and all the insight. I love connecting with people that are just sharing their truth and speaking about their journey and everything. And that helps someone else. There's going to be someone that watches this and all the other roundtables that you do that's able to kind of come out of their little like closet or whatever they're in, you know, like, oh, that resonated, that hit. Like, I'm so glad someone else feels that way or experienced that or went through that. So I think we're all doing a really amazing thing. And thank you, Stef, for putting this together and hitting up your projector buddy over here.
yeah, well, thank you for joining us and sharing all your experience and your insight and your truth. And I hope to have you back someday soon for some other conversation.
Oh, for sure. You know, I like to talk too. So
have a great rest of your day.
It was good meeting y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Same to you.
Bye.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Miss Connie, do you have to go? Because I know you're working. So
No, I'm good.
okay, so you're good for a little. So let's like see how much further we can go with the conversation. Since Mr. Elcon joined late, do you have anywhere to go, Mr. Elcon?
No.
Okay, cool. So let's just see where we go a little bit, like maybe another 15 minutes or so, and then we'll like end it. But with conducting business in the new age, what are some things that you've noticed in how some of your clients, for example, Connie, are shifting into a new way of doing things? Like, what trends have you seen, or what have you noticed overall in your own reality?
Yeah, a big awareness around like the hustle energy and letting that go. And a lot of shifting into, yeah, more like pleasure. I actually have a lot of like sex coaches like that I support. And so I've become very like,
Sorry, this reminds me of like what we spoke to like last year on embracing your feminine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's not a coincidence you're surrounded by these people.
Yeah, because like I grew up like in a home that was very like masculine driven, like doing is how you got places. And me like having to learn that has been such a journey of learning that you get to also feel good, and you get to also like experience like creativity and flow and stuff like that, right? It's been a huge like stepping out of this like idea that we're supposed to work 16 hour days, and that we have to constantly be like forcing and like pushing these boulders up a hill. And I love that I'm being surrounded by people that are also learning that. And Stef, like you model this so well, because sometimes you just disappear for weeks and then you reappear and you're like, I was just doing inner work, like, right? Like, and it wasn't from this place of like, you have to be showing up and you have to be doing things a certain way. Cause sometimes I'm just like, where the hell's Stef? Like she just like drops off and then all of a sudden you're like super there, right? So
Yeah, well, human design has also helped me with that and understanding like as far as my design, because for the longest time I felt kind of and it was again like that ego stuff. So like I think all the strategies, all the modalities that exist out there are just pieces of the puzzle, and they're pieces of the puzzle that everyone's meant to integrate individually in a way that's unique and supportive of them, and in helping them align to more of their greater truth. I don't think that there's like one thing that's usually like the one and like answer for everything, the cure all for everything, because it just, for me, logically, it doesn't make sense. Like everything exists for a reason. And so anyway, with that, something that I've had a conflict for a really long time within myself was like these breaks that I would take. And then I would cause myself to, like, I would intuitively be led to take a break, back away, take time for myself, whatever, recharge. And then at the same time, though, I would kind of be hard on myself and beat myself up, because I'm like, oh, comparisonitis, like your girl here is notorious for that. I've been working through that a lot over the years. It's much better. But, in the past, I used to be like, oh, but why can't I be like that person? And, they're doing the inner work, but they don't take like such long breaks like I do, and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like beating up on myself about why I take such long breaks. And when I kind of understood a little bit more about my own design as a projector and stuff, and the fact that like my energy comes in spurts, it comes as, it's supposed to, or whatever. And I need to be comfortable with that. I kind of understood like, and the fact that I'm supposed to rest a lot and all these other things to like make sure I'm okay, because I have a certain amount of energy, and it's not to limit myself. Like, because in the past as well, like my ego was like, you can create whatever you want. It's all your beliefs, and your beliefs create your reality and all this other stuff. And that was like I've learned in my own experience. So I'm not dismissing anyone else's belief around this. Like, you go and experiment with your life and see if it's truth for you or not, that your beliefs create your reality and like this and that. But I've learned in my own experience, like there's a balance with that. Like, it's not just all your beliefs. Like, it's not just all of that. Like, there's other things that need to be taken into consideration. And so yes, my beliefs create my reality, but the reality also of how God designed me is to be a person who is doesn't have like this infinite supply of energy that can just constantly like keep up with everything and do everything that everyone is doing and this and that. Because that's the world that we've been conditioned to be in, is like you hustle, you work hard, you get things done, you push. And if you're not pushing, you're not moving forward like everyone else, you're lazy and you're not going to amount to anything, and you're not going to be successful and all this other stuff. And so for a lot of my life, I was very much in like that generator energy where it's like I'm doing because my mom's a generator. And so for people who don't know about human design, it's okay. But like people who have a lot of energy and stuff, like, they're oftentimes the ones that have like a natural source of energy where they're doing stuff. And so I was conditioned to be a generator. And then through all this healing work I've done over the years, I've naturally fallen into who I really am, which is more of this projector energy, which is more of like resting, being out there for a moment, however long, until I'm like, okay, bye, I'm going back to rest again, and then coming back out here and like doing this thing. And then as I was leaning into that naturally, I was beating myself up because I was like, oh, but like I'm taking such long breaks or whatever. So when I learned about my design and that like this is normal for me, like I don't have to feel guilty about it, I can just let it be and accept it. That's when I was like, oh, like I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm being who I'm supposed to be, and I can just relax and let that be okay. And so this is how human design has helped me, and how I think a lot of us in this entrepreneurial world, we're really understand like we're all made differently, we're all different, we're all unique. And so we're not all constantly meant to be doing. And especially like even generators, like we're not meant to be hustling, we're not meant to be forcing ourselves to do things that we don't want to do, like to push to be successful businesses that don't feel aligned for us anymore, or be in careers that don't feel in alignment with us. Like we're meant to follow our joy, our bliss, what truly fulfills us, what truly lights us up. And we have to just do our best to be aware and do the inner work that keeps us from really moving in the direction that we feel called to move in, and that's keeping us where we're maybe truly not fulfilled and aligned. And learning to embrace the fact that rest is okay, pleasure is okay, joy is okay, and we don't have to feel guilty for these things. So hopefully I like address what you want to say. These were my thoughts. Yeah. Elcon, do you have anything to share? Or Connie, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. My daughter is a projector and her dad's a generator, and I'm a manifesting generator. So she's a projector growing up in a generator world, right? Where we're like, let's go do things on the weekend. And she's like, I actually was just hoping to lay down and watch movies all day. And I'm like, what the freak, right? And until I learned that she's a projector, that was when I was like, oh, okay, like that's just her. It's like Mick Jagger, right? I love the like analogy of like Mick Jagger sits in his chair until he's invited out. He rides the energy of the audience, does his thing, and then he goes back to his chair. And like, that's how, right? And humans are just so like complex. And I think we think like, if we just tell each other and ourselves that we just have to speak things into existence and all those things, right? Then we're just, that's the way it goes. But yeah, like I just find that there's so many layers to us as humans that it's not just one single thing.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. Elcon?
Well, I guess again, not much initially.
No, you don't have to add anything, by the way.
But yeah, no, okay. Well, I don't want to repeat necessarily, but no. Well, I do think that there are these things such as human design that you're talking about, which I'm not that familiar with, but what I do notice that it supplies us with is a framework to rest on. It gives us something like that can give us, like a guide, a stepping stone perhaps to make the next move from a place of stability, instead of having nothing and trying to reach for the ground, or to be stable, to be fixated on something instead of just floating around in the world of opportunities or possibilities. And I think that's a good thing, because we all need, I mean, we're talking about energy, and we're talking about, spirituality, we're talking about emotions, and we do need some grounding in order to find ourselves, understand ourselves better. So that's what I noticed. That's what I like about having a framework to work from, and hopefully, of course, with uh, beneficial effects, for ourselves and for others that we may impact. So yeah, that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think it is so helpful to have things that help us know about ourselves more, or to even validate who we are through, for example, astrology, numerology, human design, whatever other tools exist out there, having a psychic reading, whatever helps you to kind of validate like who you are and your own unique style or your own unique way of doing things, or how you're maybe like intended to be in the world. These kinds of things sometimes can be so validating and powerful, because you're a lot of times your mind will try to drive you to do things the way it thinks it needs to be done, and maybe on some subconscious level or intuitive level, like you feel like that's not right for you, but your mind has just so much power over you that you're like, okay, but I'm just going to go with it because this is what we're supposed to do or whatever. And then when you get validated of like, no, but this is really how things are meant to be for you, or this is really what's in alignment for you, when you get validated on things you kind of already felt, it helps you not feel crazy, and it kind of helps you to kind of lean into that more and feel more confident in that, and to trust it more sometimes. So I think there's so much value in a tool like this. Like for me, it just kind of validated what I had already been experiencing for a while, with learning about being a projector and how rest was important for me, and all these different things. And so having that validated for me through human design really helped me to just like accept it more, lean it more, trust in my own path more, to have that. So I think that's super helpful. And yeah, we can go to these tools as well to help us on our journey. So I think one last thing I want to say in regards to conscious entrepreneurship in the new age is all around speaking a little bit more in depth on the fact that people these days are seeking more soul alignment, more spiritual alignment, whether you want to call it that, or more fulfillment, if you want to call it that instead, as opposed to money. Because for so long, I think as humans, we've placed a lot of importance on money. You have magazines that are like Forbes top, entrepreneurs under 30 entrepreneurs under 30, or, people's net worth, or certain marketing strategies also specifically like have you share like your income, or just all of these things around like your material gains and that kind of stuff. And for a long time, we've placed a lot of importance on that, but now we're shifting into really wanting to go in the direction of fulfillment, more of joy, of pleasure, of freedom, of things that we truly value that don't necessarily have like a monetary value to them, or they're not necessarily tangible, but it's a feeling that we're really going for. And as humans, our souls are calling us to go after that more than necessarily like the material things per se, like to value a job that is truly maybe fulfilling and gratifying or impactful, as opposed to like some multiple six-figure job that literally just doesn't do that for you, but it pays well. Like people are starting to leave a lot of their corporate jobs. We see that especially with like a big boom in the entrepreneurial space, where people are like, maybe because of COVID too, but they're just leaving like their jobs, or even really well-paying jobs, to go pursue things that are really in alignment for them. Like people, especially I think through COVID, really understood like the importance of like, because they were given a chance to work from home, they're understanding like, oh, it's really important to me to be here with my kids and to raise them, to be around them, to experience things with them. And I want to create a job, a career that allows me to do that, and that, gives me all the time and space that I desire to have with my kids. And so, because that's something important to them, and that's not necessarily like you can't place like a price tag on that value of like wanting to be with your family and raising your children, right? But people are starting to recognize that these values are really important for them, and starting to make the shifts that move them in the direction of like creating more of that in their lives. So do any of you or do either of you have anything you want to share on that, or you want to speak to on that, or ask about?
I'll let Elcon go first. I feel like I've talked a lot.
Well, you might want to talk a little bit more. No, because I don't. No, I don't. Not at the moment.
Okay.
No. You,
Yes.
Connie?
Okay, thank you. Steph, I think you're right. Like I left my job. I had like worked hard to get to where I was, and I was so miserable. And it was like, I used to say the words like, I'm selling my soul, right? Because I really felt like, I really felt unfulfilled. And all I wanted was to do something that felt really good. And then of course there's that piece that comes in of like, well, how are you going to pay your bills, and how are you going to maintain the lifestyle you have now, and how are you, right, all these like other things that come in. But ultimately, like, that feeling is just, it just doesn't go away. Like that, like nudge, that little calling, it won't stop until you do something. And it's one thing. And I think what really changed it for me was that I was actually getting physically sick. Like I was having chronic disease show up, and like even chronic infections and migraines and stuff like that. So that was kind of what tipped me over the edge. But we don't have to get to that point. And what I have found helpful is to do a lot of the like healing work around money and why that is such a priority, and how to shift that so that it's like how who you are and how you're being in the world becomes higher priority than that, and how you can serve, if that calls to people.
Yeah. Do you have anything you wanted to add, Elcon? I think he's taking notes. He's like,
No. Well, yeah. It's well, that goes back to what I think I said already or wanted to say. Is that for me, yeah, recognizing that I can have this idea of wanting per se to achieve something, and have the tools, in fact, to uh, make these desires happen rather more quickly, or to manifest them. But if the and the energy may be behind it because of that, because of what you think that you want to achieve or must achieve, and you do show up every day, and you do the work, and you feel like you are being in alignment with that purpose, with that goal. But what if that's not really what you when I say you, I'm talking about myself, really.
yeah.
What if that's not what I want to or need to be doing? What if I'm not in alignment with what is within me? And so it's that's difficult, and difficult because when you're not, it's about understanding as well. And I guess something like human design can help with that, is to understand that you have, for me, my mind, my consciousness, and my ego, and that part of me that is always present, but may need a little bit more awareness to reach and understand, to know if I'm on the right track. Um, so yeah, but it's a nice challenge. I'm it's there's a way to enjoy that process, and others can help us with that. If we don't have to do this alone. We're not here to jump in the water, so to speak, and not knowing if it's deep or shallow, or how if it's gonna take us anywhere where we don't want to go. But yeah, no, I guess that's about what I want to say.
I love how like I'm surrounded by such happy, positive people, because I'm like so dense sometimes, where I think it's my Scorpio and Moon situation here. And I think I like have Moon, Scorpio and Pluto or something like that. So like when it comes at like with Elcon, he just said like there's a way to enjoy the process, and like I know in my mind I'm like, no, this is not enjoyable. It's not enjoyable trying to figure all this out. Like I want to figure it out as fast as possible, and if I'm not, this sucks.
Yeah.
So it's good to have people like Elcon like remind me, and like I have to remind myself, and it's been a journey for me trying to learn to enjoy the process more and more, not to put so much pressure on myself to like get it right away, move forward as fast as possible, whatever, because you know I have to get it right, all this other stuff. And so what I can say to what you shared, Elcon, is that for me, what's really helped me to know and understand the difference between knowing whether or not something truly is right for me, and like whether I'm really meant to be putting my energy and effort behind that or not. What's helped me to discern whether it's in alignment for me or not is lots of life experience, making lots of mistakes, and healing work to help me connect with my soul, with who I really am. Because then as I do the inner work and I clear up all the trauma and all the limiting beliefs, fears, insecurities, it helps silence more of the voice of the ego that's meddling in my choices in life and telling me like what I need to be doing or whatever it is. And so that silences it more so that I can really listen to what's really going on in here, or I can feel it more. And then as I'm living my life, I just feel more, I know more, like this doesn't feel right, or this is right, or this isn't right. Like, and I can tell the difference now more through this deeper healing and having this be louder, or and also a lot of mistakes I made along the way and experiences, to have that discernment of knowing like this is actually my ego trying to drive me to do this, but I know it's not right because I can feel it's not right. And so I've learned that through trial and error, through being able to heal and know all these things, to have that greater connection with myself, and making lots and lots of mistakes along the way. And you know, one of the mistakes that I share with my clients in like Soul Line Impact, for example, that helped me to really understand this, because in that program I share a lot, like it's really important to discern ego versus soul in your business, because a lot of times you don't recognize that ego is driving you to do things in your business. Like a lot of times you think like, oh, I'm really excited about, you know, talking about this thing and this and that. But sometimes it's not true, genuine, aligned excitement. Sometimes it's the excitement coming from your mind, because your mind thinks this is a good idea that will get a lot of attention from people, or will catch their eyes, or will get them to, you know, notice you or see you as an expert or whatever. That's really what's going on sometimes. And so it's a bit of a process discerning like ego versus soul, and you have to go on the journey. And so an example that I give there is that taught me this a lot. It's not related to business, but it's like a couple years ago now, I think, God, but I was in a not very good relationship, and like that whole time in that relationship, like I had already known before that relationship that person wasn't for me, wasn't my soulmate. I had been told that years ago that wasn't going to be a definitive relationship. And even then, like I knew this person isn't for me. This person is just for the moment. And but you know, things got complicated, whatever, and then we just became an item. And then like I wanted to break free from the relationship, but then, you know, it just didn't unfold that way. And my ego kept telling me, well, like maybe there's something, you still have to be in this relationship to learn something from it. You know, this person's triggering you because you still have to heal things, and you might as well heal it with this person, you know, to prepare yourself for the next relationship, whatever. And my mind kept leading me to stay in this relationship longer than I needed to. I wasn't really listening to myself. My true inner guidance was saying, get out of this now. But my mind was all like, well, there's something to be learned here. Well, you know, this and that. Well, you know, making up all these reasons, these excuses for like staying in there. And so when I finally, you know, went into myself and I really asked myself, like, what do you really want here? My soul was like, not this, like, get out of here, you know? And that's when I really started discerning for myself through that big mistake of mine, because choosing to be in that relationship for me was such a powerful lesson, like you have no idea. And it really taught me to really start differentiating then between the difference between my ego and my soul, and really recognizing that for that whole time, my mind, my ego was driving me to stay in a relationship that really wasn't good for me. And I wasn't really truly listening to my inner guidance. And so that's taken, you know, trial and error, big mistakes. And now I'm so much better at that and noticing the difference because of that. So there's no straightforward, easy answer. Like all of a sudden, let me tell you, this is how you tell the difference. Like, no, like you have to literally live it and experience it and embody it for yourself to really discern for you, like what the real answer for you is. And sometimes it's gonna cause you to go like in a certain direction thinking like, oh, this is the right direction, but then you keep going further along your path, and then you recognize in hindsight, like, actually I went in that direction not because I really felt pulled to go in that direction, but because I thought it was a good idea to go in that direction. And so you're able to look at it in retrospect, but you have to like walk the journey, you know. And that's, I think, something that what we've been discussing, you know, in this conversation a bit, is like embracing that and letting it be okay however it unfolds. Like, this is part of your learning process, and this is how you gain wisdom in your journey to know what works for you, what doesn't, what's right for you and what isn't. Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Connie, do you have anything you want to share?
Just quickly, I have
Go
a lot
ahead.
of things to share apparently, but just quickly, that one of the things that has really helped me, like you were saying about, it's like that dropping into your body, right? Like I've lived most of my life in my head and just spinning these stories and just like letting my mind take me to all these like places and what if scenarios. And as I've learned to like drop into my body and be like here in my actual body, then that's where like this like wisdom is.
Yeah. And that's a practice that we can start putting into place. Like, I've been doing a practice of that recently too, where I'm like, okay, like really just drop into your heart space. Like, because in my mind every day I'm like, okay, these are all the things I want to do today. I want to check this off. Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm learning to get out of here. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Like, Stephanie, you take even like a minute. Come on now, drop back down into your heart. What do you really want to do right now? I want to go to the park. Screw my checklist, my to-do list. Like, I want to go to the park. Let's go to the park. So, and learning to trust in that and let that be okay. But we have to like get into the practice of that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, learn from mistakes and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that we've spoken to a lot of amazing things today. I really hope that this has helped everyone who watches this. If you watch this, please let us know in the comments below how you enjoyed our perspectives, our experiences, our insights. I would love to hear from you. Totally forgot to tell you this in the last call, but I was just like nervous and like so in it. I don't know. So, but go back and leave your comments on that other call as well. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video today, definitely give this video a thumbs up, like wherever you're watching from. Make sure you subscribe to my channel to listen to more of these conversations. Let me know if you enjoyed this kind of thing, because this was just something that I felt inspired to do as well, where I was like, really want to talk about this, and who can I talk about this with that I really like, and I think we would have really great conversations with. And so I reached out to a few friends and past clients and this and that to just see like how we could come together to share our different experiences, insights, perspectives to help people. Because, you know, I think navigating business right now is a bit tricky for some people, especially if you're just stepping in, because once you first step in, you see everyone marketing their strategies, their paths, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. And I really just wanted to try to save everyone time if possible. I mean, sometimes you have to walk that path anyway to figure out like that's not for you. You know, like Elcon was saying earlier, like you have to kind of go down that route. But my intention was just really to kind of save you some time, because a lot of us have walked this path on some level. We've made all these mistakes. We're really leaning into the energy more and understanding like, hey, it's all about having it be in alignment with you and integrity, being of service, all this other stuff. So to really just kind of help you with our experiences and stuff so that you have an easier time with your own path. So yeah, definitely let us know in the comments below how this message today, this call resonated with you. And I will leave everyone's contact information in the comments below. It will be pinned so you can reach out to Connie about her services. If it speaks to you, you can reach out to Elcon if you want to know more about hypnotherapy and those kinds of things, or acting, which, I have so much I want to say on acting. And we've talked about this in the past, Elcon, you and I, but maybe we'll leave it for another day. Maybe depending if everyone likes this conversation, this kind of thing of doing things, then we'll have a conversation on spiritual ego and acting, which I think will be a really great example. But Anyway, so thank you so much, everyone, for your time, whoever watches this, and for my guest today, thank you so much. I appreciate you all, and I will see you in the next video, and I'm wishing you all an amazing day. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.